Kathy, how's Marbella?
Very good, very good. I'm here sitting, have amazing view to the Paddle Club, blue sky, palms in front of my face, sun around 20 degrees.
Nice. Well, it's getting
Good
warmer
vibe.
here in Canada.
Yeah, like 5 degrees.
No, I think it was like 11 yesterday, so it's not that bad.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I'm excited to spend this morning together and talk a little bit about leadership. And for those that are watching or observing or paying attention, the most important thing, the most beautiful thing that we find is that when people come together like this, when Kathy and I come together, uh, we got to know each other over Instagram, got to get to know each other, and we just got really inspired to want to create together because of our principles, our values, the way that we see the world, and the distinctive responsibility that we feel um, can come through as a result of just being ourselves. And I think that this is the most beautiful thing when it's natural and it's co-creative and it's truthful and allows things to show up in a moment of full trust. And so, we've decided to really put together a retreat in Ibiza, and the reason that we do that is really to help leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, executive teams to really expand themselves and step into a way more principle focused and purpose driven uh, role in their environments. So I'm really excited to welcome, Kathy to always being here alongside, and her values, her opinions, her perspectives are extremely insightful and important for what I believe is the redefinition of business for a new perspective and how it gets to grow into the future. Kathy?
Thank you. Yeah, there's actually nothing to add at the moment. I just think it's amazing that we've met on Instagram and we create this event now together for the July. And well, we haven't met each other in person yet, but from the beginning when we talked the first time, I think last year, it was there's this trust from both sides. And we realized this connection as well. And this only starts. That's why I truly believe when you're able to lead yourself and when you're able to know yourself as a leader, and you have the capability and you have a very deep understanding of knowing yourself, observing yourself, and teaching other people to do this as well, and I have that too. So every time when we worked on our retreat together, on the program, on our vision, the mission, what we want to create in Ibiza for leaders, we've been 100% honest with each other, but at the same time as well, this working together, it was never so easy for me working with another entrepreneur together. And when I hear from corporate companies or even other entrepreneurs and they work as a team together, they always have a lot of conflicts going on as well. And or maybe they're not on the same page, or they don't trust each other, or they thought in the beginning is going to be great, and after 2 3 times talking, then they realize maybe they have different values. And I think right from the beginning there's this energy and there's this connection, and I was so surprised between us. It was super easy, and I've never had this easy work in every kind of business before. And that's what I think we both should transmit, or what we want to transmit as well in the retreat as well, to be aligned with each other as a team, working together super easy in a team. And it's not about hard working, it's not about like growing and hustling all the time, but it can be very easy.
Mm. I love it. I think that that's a in flow, and it's that's what I'm hearing is just very allowing things to come through versus coming from kind of a survival mind, right? Where oftentimes we see leaders, people, experiences really driving their initiatives or driving their responsibilities from everything is be so rational, right?
Mhm.
Actually, it's so funny. I put a quote today in one of our groups in the Bitcoin community. Uh, I said what Albert Einstein, I didn't say it, Albert Einstein, but I posted it saying the I'll just pull it up because it's so good, and it's so good. Like, I just want to make sure that I don't mess it up because it was so powerful. But basically, what Albert Einstein wrote was, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift.
100%. Very, very, very good saying. And that's what I observe in the corporate world. That's what I observed in when I worked for corporate companies, especially as well multicultural companies, is the rational mind is so pushed and everybody relies on the rational, which is on the one side very important, yes, but the other side, it kind of the intuitive mind, the creative mind, the creativity, and this problem, it's not solution oriented, it's more like solving oriented and reacting of problems instead of being intuitive, creative, big thinkers, dreamers. Like all the big companies created in the world started with a vision, started with a dream, right? And people had those dreams in their head. But what I observe in society is that when somebody talks about very crazy dreams, people sometimes look at them like, what do you talk about? It's not all about glamour and glitzer and dreaming, and come back to earth. Come back to the ground. Be rational. It needs to be realistic. I just hate this word. Sorry, I need to say this. I just hate this word realistic so much. Yeah, but we
What does
kind of
realistic what does realistic mean to you?
nothing. Nothing. Well, realistic is everybody has his own perception of realistic, right? And people tend to use it when things in the business world try to work out. But it's more like being 100% certain that things in the future will work out. There's no 100% certainty
Hmm.
and nothing. We're searching for this 100% certainty to control the future, what you can't, and then call it realistic.
Interesting, and I think to kind of get us really into a knowing or a certainty, right, or a control of the mind. Uh, is it possible that kind of strengthening your own resolve, your own knowing, your own trusting in yourself, right? Like, that's where I think fundamentally the only thing that you can ever control is, like, even going to these principles, right? Like these 8 principles that kind of inspired us from Napoleon Hill. And if anybody hasn't read Napoleon Hill's How to Think and Grow Rich, great book and a lot of insight there, as well as his book Law of Success, a great book. But fundamentally speaking, there's a resolve here that has to come through something within yourself at the beginning that makes you want to get more curious about what is it that is outside the world, because we get so conditioned by these external environments that we forget our own true nature. And for a very long time when I was younger, I would get so curious about the external world and even projected a lot of bullshit, that I thought I needed to be a certain way. And it's interesting because when you get curious and you go into these different environments and you start to navigate kind of these experiences, and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel right, or it doesn't feel certain, and people try to tell you these limitations, and you're just like, okay, no, like that's not who I am. I'm gonna continue coming from this like certainty within, and the right people will come. It it can be a lonely road at some point, and that loneliness turns into aloneness or all oneness, and you really start to shine from the inside and radiate. Um, for me, that was it was like a lot of uh, tests to make sure that I can actually show up. And I don't know if society equips us with that type of internal behavior. What are your thoughts?
It's very interesting that you're saying that, because I just came up, I just remembered the documentation of Bill Gates, what I've watched a couple of months ago. And the whole documentation showed his daily life. And what you just said, we have those distractions from the outside world, and those distractions, they don't lead us to be a creative person. They lead us more to be probably numb and not a visionary anymore. And I just remember watching his documentary of Bill Gates when he was facing a challenge, or he's really trying to solve any obstacle what he's dealing with at a certain period of time. He's mostly alone and in nature. So what you just said about loneliness, yes, it can be very lonely, but in this loneliness, you probably find answers quickly, or even faster. And those answers are probably intuitive as well, and not influenced by other people. And most of the answers, and I bet he's doing that on purpose, to be by himself, to not be distracted from anyone else. And he said that even in an interview, he said, like, if I want to figure something out, I go for very long walks in nature and be by myself. I've never heard this similar saying about, yeah, from other CEOs, entrepreneurs, or managers, that they actually go out for a walk when they struggle with something or facing an issue. Most of them, they're sitting in front of the laptop and think they're going to have the solution just writing an email. So I truly believe the creativeness, the intuitive solution you maybe sometimes, or you want to look for, it's not in the outside world being with different people, it's inside you, being by yourself, surrounded by nature and calmness.
I love it. It's so true. And strengthening that resolve, right? Like that then gives you even more certainty to not be doing anything based off of getting something, but delivering the value, right? Like stepping into that second nature of wanting to just give more than you ever expect to receive, wanting to just pour into people,
Yep.
pour into the experience, pour into what it looks like for, because it becomes, it's that wealth, that's abundance coming through you, right? It's like, it's not, there's no, it's a channel, it doesn't even stop, it just continues to
Yep.
flow, and there's nothing to worry about, there's nothing to say, oh, you know, I have to stop giving any advice or any support or any value, because it's who you are. It's not something that you get to shut off and off. It's just a tap that continues to flow. So what are your thoughts when you see, in your experience, when you work with, you know, great leaders, in terms of how they deliver value?
Mm, well, they deliver value. It's like how they act, how they talk, how they approach things. Obviously, it's the knowledge as well, but it's this whole experience of delivering value when I work with them together. It's very hard to describe sometimes, but when I enter into the room and I been talked to several entrepreneurs, you just feel the experience and the appearance what they have if they would be able to deliver a very good value to the company.
Mm.
If not only it's not only about the knowledge, it's also about the energy and the way they approach things. That's for me a meaning of delivering value first.
I love it. It's a feeling, it's a frequency.
Yeah, maybe it has
Do
something
you
to do
think
as well. Yeah, sorry. Maybe like the third principle as well, what we wrote down is implementing the certainty in environment, and that's a very important part for a leader as well. And that's the certainty what I just talked about when I enter into a room and I'm talking to entrepreneurs, and obviously everybody's calling themselves, yes, I'm this leader. You create a safe space, you create a certainty in your whole environment with your appearance, with your frequency, like you just said.
that when people feel that energy, when they feel that level of certainty, that feeling, or they don't, do you think they, like most people, when they observe that in others, that they come from a place of rationality? Because meaning what I'm saying, say somebody that is really charismatic walks into a room and just like really can shine, really opens up the doors, is able to shine and owns that. Do you think that people get attracted to that energy or repelled from that energy based off of rationality?
Definitely not. There's a very good example to this about how can you be more charismatic. And statistic has shown that the most charismatic people, they're less rational, meaning they don't have, well, I think rational is more for me people, they talk a lot about numbers, they want to have the security, they want to have a proof of what I'm saying right now in numbers most of the time. They want to talk about possibilities, about risk taking, and all in numbers. Like finance sector, maybe, yes. For me as a woman, to be honest, the finance sector for me is super rational. That's like the worst topic ever I would like to talk about. It's nothing creative for me as a woman. Maybe for men it's different, right? But so if I would sit down with people on a table and they start talking about finances and numbers and statistics and mathematics and I don't know, it's that there's nothing visionary coming in for me. And to be honest, those people, most of them, they haven't been that charismatic. I'm not saying they're not intelligent. Of course they are, 100%. They're very intelligent people, and we need them. I need them, yeah. But some of them, they're maybe not. Maybe they want to be a little bit more charismatic, but I don't know how. Maybe they want to be a little bit more seen for what they do, but they're not able to transmit this feeling or emotion because they shut down their emotion. Maybe they shut down their own emotion to be more rational, to fulfill their job.
Or maybe it's even to fulfill just kind of the way they perceive themselves. So they don't know what they don't know. And I think I've met a lot of CTOs and engineers and accountants and finance professionals and economists and things like this. And some actually are extremely charismatic. And the way that they can deliver the value is really beautiful. But the most important thing that I've noticed is that some of these technical, and I sometimes make fun, and I don't do this by like, and it's just like we're all geeks. We're like super geeky in the space. So sometimes the technical geeks, like we're like super geeky in the space. Um, they actually want to like connect even more, and
Yeah,
uh, there's a they almost get super excited when we're having a discussion about creativity, because they're like, oh my God, you get me, you understand me, but they don't know how to express it maybe in a group or in a full environment yet. And so I get really excited about that, because like even a couple of weeks ago I was talking to my friend, and he's like, oh, I want to do a mastermind for men. And I said, listen, you need to get into like the technical geek like areas, because they really need action steps, and they want they want to really express themselves even more. And I believe that there's a real powerful desire for uh, even more men specifically that are inside of the finance and wealth, especially when we talk about Bitcoin and crypto and things like this. These gentlemen, they want to uh, open up themselves to a really more charismatic and experiential way of sharing their wisdom, because it's when these men and women share their wisdom of what's possible with that charismatic way, that decision of them coming out and expressing themselves will empower their communities or their teams or their organizations even more, so that they don't have to feel like it's only them working on it, because then people get curious about their interests, their principles, their desire to want to share or get why they've been so curious about this, because it fulfills them from a freedom level. And I think that most people can resonate with the fundamental thing, is that as a leader, we essentially all we love freedom. We just want to be ourselves, right? And by being ourselves, that means that being like accepted in any way, shape, or form that we are. And uh people that are really working inside of the finance industry that I've noticed is like they have such brilliant minds, but they don't know how to express themselves yet. So that is, I think, one of the decisions that I encourage anybody that is kind of inside of that internal or introspective way,
Yeah.
to say, hey, like, let's be around some expression. Let's allow just a little bit closer into my life, because then it will encourage you to come out a little bit more.
Yeah, I exactly observed the same thing. I was on a networking event last night, and I've met a couple of crypto guys and technic guys, and yeah, it was noticeable. They have a very great knowledge and they're very intelligent. It's just like you said, maybe they just need a little bit of a push of how to express themselves and show maybe a little more emotion, that they're also human. They also want to have a connection with other people, right? But they're just so rational in their work and so technical driven that they maybe suppress certain areas, even if they want to step into this field, but they don't know how.
Right.
But I think they're very open to this. It's just a couple things they gotta learn, or and show more emotions, showing maybe more vulnerability as well. And then they're getting maybe along this road, this process, they're going to be more charismatic in this case as well, and then they show up as a leader with this great knowledge, on top being charismatic.
Yeah, like I think there's a space of humility that shows up by that charisma, right? It's um they make a decision, they're charismatic, they're able to communicate. But then what I've found, at least in my experience of life, is doing the best you can. Like just I know for myself the experience has been sometimes people, you're like uncertain, you meet people and you don't know if they're going to agree with you, but then you're like, no, like, I don't care if they please, I'm not here to please anybody, I'm here just to be myself and really believe in what I need to deserve or share or communicate with joy. And people aren't always going to agree, and I've had throughout my life a lot of people that don't agree with me. And what I realized is that early on in my journey, I would get very sad, um, But what I realized is that that was an element of pleasing, and we sometimes try to please people just to get acceptance. And the more I strengthened myself, and I went down these components of like strengthening my resolve or really working, the more I was able to say, okay, how can I have compassion for myself right now to just be who I really want to be, and then practice humility. So like it's okay if they don't agree, and having that genuine, thoughtful disagreement allowed me to really strengthen my core, my center, because I knew it was coming from truth. I knew it was coming from intelligence, and I knew that it was coming from. And so you go to these different environments and you create certainty, and you start having like thoughtful conversations, mindful conversations. And by being curious about others, I started to understand, okay, wait, like it's actually more just about listening to them, having that desire to learn, but then sharing your own knowledge as well. And I think that this is something that a lot of Henry Ford talks about this, like being a master architect. And this master architect actually is curious enough about other people to then still have their disagreements, have their own opinions, but then also know how to weave things together in a way that I am willing to see the goodness of everything that I see and take away the stuff that I don't like. Like take the gold, from a conversation and then bring it all together. And that I think is the what a lot of these rational minds that may be intelligent or maybe that they see things from their own map of the world, and by allowing themselves to open up to listening of others and then still expressing themselves with certainty and devotion and compassion, they'll be able to put pieces together that maybe, or other people will be able to put pieces together for them that maybe they've never seen before in their lives.
It's a very good explanation. I just had this sentence come up in my mind is sometimes it's just agreeing to something on disagreeing. So, and I think it's a big level of self-confidence needed if you talk to some people and you realize that maybe you're not on the same page. You realize, I'm going to say something right now, maybe I'm going to piss the other person off, or I'm going to trigger this person right now. And then still talking in a way with big compassion to yourself, but also for the other person, still respecting this person and accepting his or her opinion. But at the same time, we all want to be liked, we all want to be accepted, we all want to be seen and recognized. And I think, of course, it's hard sometimes when people, especially close people, they disagree with you or maybe tell you something about yourself, what they've noticed, realized, which is triggering you as well. And yeah, like you said, this being a master of this architect and still knowing, okay, where is the line for me? What do I, like you said, where can I take like those golden nuggets for myself? What is helping me? And where do I just filter what is not helping me to grow and leave this with the other person?
Do you find that there's a level of responsibility when people are asking questions, like what do you find in terms of leaders, like this level of curiosity? What do you see when, because like maybe I'll ask a better way. I believe that the best leaders have the most questions. This is what I
Yes,
think.
yes.
And so they actually don't have the answers, they always have the questions. This is my perspective. What are your thoughts?
Definitely, 100%. There's also a saying, if you are the smartest in the room, you probably should leave the room. You should be one of the dumbest people in the room to learn and to grow. And
I would even go deeper. I would even go deeper than that, and I would say to be surrounded by people that are smarter than you in different fields.
Yeah, yeah. Better say it in my way, maybe. Yeah, it's about asking questions. Yes. Listening, asking questions, the right questions, actually, because you will find out by asking questions what's actually going on with the other person instead of making up assumptions. I've done it, to be honest, I've done this mistake the last years a lot of times. I really made up assumptions very easily, very fast. I'm a judgmental person as well, very honest. And we all have those prototypes. When we meet a person for the first time, we all have these prototypes going on, and I scan very quickly. And then I make up assumptions in my head. Okay, this person is like this, or the entrepreneur is like this, and the leader is like this, and he probably is going to say this or acting this way. And a couple of years ago, I was reflecting on my behavior, and I realized, okay, that's an old pattern, what I probably have from one of my parents, to make up assumptions super quickly, to be judgmental and put them into put people very quickly into yeah, in my head in one field. And then I changed my approach. I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. Stop being so judgmental in the first second and ask them questions. And if I'm right, what I've been thinking before, maybe I'm right afterwards, and I had like this feeling, okay, this person is exactly what I thought before, and I asked the questions, I even have the proof for it. Or a couple of times as well, I asked the questions and I was completely wrong about it. And my mind played this trick game of my old patterns, what I have from teenage years, from my family, and I've learned even more.
It's interesting. Do you think that those questions, because I'm reflecting back as you're speaking, and I'm reflecting and I'm thinking, wow, since I was a little boy, always would ask myself questions, like my internal dialogue. I'd always ask myself questions, like, oh. And it's interesting. So, do you believe that more people inherently ask these questions within themselves and they don't express it as much as they could? Because I think that is what really is important. If you're asking yourself these questions, but then you're not really sharing that in the world, then are you living up to your true potential as a leader?
Well, very hard, actually. I observed yeah, people struggling with asking questions. People struggle even with creating those questions as well. I don't blame them. It's just a level of consciousness you probably need to achieve to ask yourself the right questions, or learning from very good leaders, and maybe as well people who have a very good conscious level too. I've been told, and I realized that too, the last 2 3 years, my level of communication and asking questions increased a lot. But and I was analyzing this actually a couple of weeks ago, and I asked myself, is that true? And I observed it and said, yeah, it's actually true. So how did I increase my level of communication? How did I increase my level of consciousness? And as well, how did I increase, or how could I be better in starting to create those questions? And to be honest, it started to work on myself, and I was in a very dark place. But as well, I had coaches who helped me. They've been asking me very interesting questions. I've worked with a therapist together, with two actually. I've worked with several coaches together, and they've been asking me very, very interesting questions about who I am, who I want to be, who I want to step up to, what kind of leader I want to be. And I kept those questions in mind, and I'm asking obviously other people about those questions now too. But if I would have never worked with those people together, my level of communicate or my communication skills and consciousness would be probably the same as the last 10 years.
Well, as you know, Tony, he always, Tony's taught a little bit, well, he's taught me a lot, but um, uh, he always says, the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your relationships, your results, your life, your circumstances. And so I really take this very deeply and meaningfully because, Tony Robbins for me has been a very important mentor and teacher as I've grown. And so given me a lot of tools to put into the toolbox of stepping into a way more responsible role inside of business. And so I
How
really
would you,
encourage any, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just curious, how would you define high quality question? Or how do you create high quality questions?
Well, high quality means being vulnerable. Does it like quality questions, the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life. Is it something that is quality to you? Right. So, from the perception of your own self and needing to get curious about things that you may not know, right? Being open enough to say that you don't know is the quality question in my eyes. Because
Like you said,
people,
admitting, like you just said, admitting sometimes, well, I don't know the answer, I gotta ask someone, or,
yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, because if you're pretending like then that's even worse in
Hmm.
my eyes. And so if you have the desire to ask a quality question, and it could say like, what does this mean? Even like that's a quality question at the right time based off of the scenario and the context of what's happening in that scenario. If somebody is explaining something to you and you don't understand a word and you don't ask what does that word mean and you let them continue, you're disservicing yourself to the knowledge that they're about to give you.
Yeah.
So there's that takes a lot of courage to stop and say, hold on a second, can you explain what that means? Because I don't understand.
Mm.
Most people won't stop somebody. They won't say, hold on a second, because they don't have the courage and the vulnerability and the authenticity to say, hold on, I really want to know what you're talking about, but I don't, I just need to understand this word. That is a quality question. That
Yeah.
is a quality question because you're showing up as a leader and saying, I'm so curious about what you're saying and I'm really listening, but I don't get what this means. I need to stop you in an open scenario, open environment, doesn't matter how many people are around. And you're like, okay. And now you get everybody's ears. And this is power from my perspective. And so um, it gives, or writing it down even, right, and just asking later. But I personally, I because I like to continue with the flow of things, I need to stop them and I need to get curious at that moment so then they can continue, so I can follow the stream of thought.
Mm.
um but I think that this is the thing that we're bringing to Ibiza is really getting a lot of great people together, and what Andrew Carnegie calls the mastermind
Yeah.
of putting 12, 13, 15, 20 people together to really having these collective conversations of how to really bridge the mind, body, spirit, and finance into a aligned pattern so that you're able to bring that into your definite chief aim, your definiteness of purpose, how you're delivering that value to your organization. And this becomes the golden rule, and this golden rule is do unto others as you would want done unto yourself. And that then gives you that capacity to step into an absolute space of power as a leader. And so I definitely encourage, if anybody's watching this back or watching this live or watching this in the future, to check out what we're doing in Ibiza, balancedmedia.ventures/Ibiza retreat. check it out, you know, or connect with myself and Kathy, and like let's bring you on, let's connect. We'd love to spend some time with you.
Great. Nothing to add.
Amazing.
To be honest, I just feel a little bit intimidated right now because I gotta learn some vocabulary, I guess.
No, no, you don't need to learn anything. You're amazing. You're amazing the way that you are. So, I mean, we are always learning, but yes, you don't like, so, yeah, but you're amazing. So, thank you so much for your time, Kathy. And yeah, I'm grateful for you.
Thank you.